Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
This is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Brett Amundson. Thanks for tuning in right here, wherever you're watching / listening to this. Dan Amundson and David Eckhart with us right over there as well. And Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism is going to join us right now. Joe, we've just been here in western Minnesota digging out of the snow. I think this last storm, I don't think it made it all the way up to Lake of the Woods, did it?
No, it didn't. No, we missed with the big blunt of the snow, which is great because it gives us the opportunity to just have that much easier traveling conditions, I guess.
Yeah, and fishing, it sounds like it's been pretty good. And, you know, I've been seeing nice walleyes coming out of Lake of the Woods, of course, already this winter, but also been seeing, you know, sturgeon and eel pout and some of the other species. And I feel like, well, you know, Lake of the Woods is a walleye capital, but more and more people are getting excited about some of these other fish to catch. And I mean, this is Lake of the Woods and the Rainy River, of course, world-class fisheries for sturgeon and some of these other fish, including the state record eel pout, right?
It is, yeah. In fact, the last few state record eel pout, the current one is right around 19 and a half pounds. And I'll tell you, there have been so many big eel pout caught this year, and a lot of them. I mean, every time you turn around on social media, people are holding up monster eel pout, and they put up a good fight. They're delicious, table fare. You know, they call eel pout poor man's lobster. It's a freshwater cod. They call it a burbot. They call it a lawyer. There's a lot of different names for an eel pout. You know, for people that aren't so in tune with ice fishing, you know, just know that it wasn't that long ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago maybe, that you'd go up to Lake of the Woods and you'd see eel pout scattered occasionally across the ice. Anglers would catch them and they'd throw them out on the ice. And I'll never forget the time that I was driving on the lake and I thought I saw somebody ice fishing. Well, lo and behold, it wasn't anybody ice fishing. It was a big eagle eating an eel pout. But they used to be thrown on the ice. And eventually over time, people started realizing that, hey, this is considered freshwater cod. It's in the cod family. And if you take that meat out of the back strap and the back two tail pieces, you cube it, and then you boil it in either 7-Up or salt water. In fact, I just heard a new recipe. Some guys on Facebook said that they were boiling it in water with that seasoning.
With what seasoning?
And that Old Bay seasoning. It's kind of a traditional seafood seasoning. And but anyway, you know, you boil them like that, and then you dip it in melted butter, and the consistency is a little bit more firmer white meat. Very, very tasty. And you know, so now it's so funny. It used to go from, hey, you know, these things are gross, get that thing out of the fish, they'll throw it on the ice, to, you know what? And by the way, it's illegal throwing fish on ice. It's called littering, so don't ever do that. But now it's like, man, I hope I catch an eel pout or two when I'm up there walleye fishing, because, you know, we want to have them as an appetizer. You know, the other thing about eel pout is they're just kind of a cool looking fish. You know, people talk about how when you grab them, they wrap around your arm, and they don't really wrap around your arm. That tail curls up, but they don't wrap around your arm. I got to tell you a really funny story.
I know what story you're talking about, Joe. I was just going to ask you to tell it anyway because it's hilarious.
Oh, gosh. We're on the same page. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was at the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show, and I had some young guys come up from the Twin Cities, and they came up and talked to me at the booth a couple years ago. And they said, yeah, man, we made it at the Lake of the Woods for the first time. So much fun. We're going again. Every year now it's tradition, da-da-da. And, oh, yeah, man, I caught my first eel pout. I go, oh, cool, man. Congrats. How'd that go for you? He goes, well, I got to tell you, man, it was weird. He says, I caught this eel pout, and, you know, you grab it, and they kind of squirm around. They're hard to grab. And I looked at this thing, and I was just weird looking. So that night, you know, it was time to hit the rack. I was sleeping on the top bunk. I went up on the top bunk and started laying there, and I just kept thinking about this eel pout. It just kind of freaking me out, man. I couldn't sleep. So finally I got down, put covers on all the holes, and went back to bed. Oh, you know, I don't know what to say.
Like it's a snakehead and it's going to come crawling out of the lake or something.
Yeah, you know. But hey, it made him feel more comfortable, and I realized he could fall asleep then. So God bless him.
Wow. I think people call them ugly or whatever, trash fish. I think they're way cool looking. And I'll tell you what, the fight, I don't know how many times we've hooked into nice sized eel pout and think that it's a monster walleye on there. I mean, after a little while, you'll start to get to, it has a little bit of a different tug to it. But we've been tricked many times thinking you got a big walleye on when you're catching one of those eel pout, and they're fun to catch.
Oh, they are. Well, and you're so right though, because there are times like when you Oh no, not the eel pout slap.
You remember this one?
Oh man.
Oh no.
For listeners out there, Danny's showing a old Facebook video of somebody having a few too many barley sodas, and one of them getting slapped with an eel pout in the fish cleaning house by its tail. But when you look at their backs and the coloring on them, their coloring is really cool. And then know that they're basically dormant in the summer months. You hardly ever catch one. Once in a great while, you hear of an eel pout being caught in the summer, but they come to life when that ice hits, and it's a real cold water fish.
And the spawn balls, there's just so many interesting things about them. I think they're fun to catch, and I'm glad people
talk like there's a lot of people that don't understand how they spawn. Explain that spawn ball.
Can we find some video of it? Because it's going to be easier just to
buy me
show.
some time.
Okay.
Dance a little bit here.
Well, it's a big ball of fish. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
You're doing a bad job so far.
Yeah, that's why I said find a video.
So what happens is all these eel pout get together, and honestly, it's like a ball. They're all swimming amongst each other. It's almost like they're re-sliming each other, but they're all on a big ball. And that spawning ritual takes place under the ice. Normally, I think it's in the month and towards the end of February, typically. And it's amazing they all get together like that, and it's incredible footage. But again, very unique fish. Now, is actually getting to a point where some people start targeting them, and and actually, Brett, remember we talked about last year how the DNR made them a sport fish, right?
Yeah, which I think is good, and I think having limits on these fish is something that's been necessary for a while. I'm just watching this footage here.
Trying to find the spawn ball here,
Sure.
not just people fishing. This is from Angling Buzz, by the way.
This is pretty cool underwater footage of.
But it's great underwater footage. It's even fun just to see how they swim and how they take a bait, and
Yeah, they're cool fish, and I think the increased popularity is the reason why they're going to be managed as game fish, and why you need to have limits on a fish like this. Because now most of the people that are targeting them are catching and releasing them. That's the other great thing about it. I mean, I have no problem with somebody wanting to keep some to eat some. We ate some crappies last night. They were delicious. I'm all about eating them, just not taking more than you need. And obviously, if you're going to sit and target a fish, all night or for a couple of days, or if you're on a trip, you don't need to keep everyone that you catch. And the glow, that's cool. Well, not really. Just seeing some really cool fishing footage here. Some eel pout.
Yeah, I don't know. I was lied to.
That's funny.
But they are cool fish, and I think in addition to eel pout, we talked about once in a while you'll hook into a sturgeon, you'll catch tulies. Tulies, people call them whitefish, but really on Lake of the Woods, almost all the time they have whitefish on Lake of the Woods, but whitefish is a different kind of fish.
Mm-hmm.
You got your tulies, and I think your tulies have more of Brett, don't they have more? Do they have an underbite or overbite?
I always get them mixed up. Which one is which? The jaw is just a little bit different. I think the fins are just a hair different.
And the whitefish have a little bit of a golden tint to them, whereas the tulibies are very silver. The whitefish get larger; they get to be 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds, whereas tulibies typically are in that 1 to 2 pound range, if not smaller. And I'll tell you, but the tulibies, most people don't eat them, like fry them up. What they normally do is they'll clean them up, and then they'll actually just smoke them, and so they're real good smoked.
Yeah, the whitefish has a snout that overhangs the lower jaw, and the lower jaw of the cisco or tulibee extends up to or beyond the tip of the snout. So the whitefish has got the overbite.
The whitefish has an overbite, and the tulibee has an underbite.
Yeah. And we've smoked tulibees. They're delicious. I think they're, to me, it's almost like a trout, basically. I think they're fun. I think they're fun to catch too. I mean, show me a fish that really isn't that much fun to catch. I think, this isn't really controversial, but I think people will tell you that while walleyes get to be targeted most of the time, sometimes they're the least fun to catch. Yeah. It's more of a mental thing, trying to catch them and trying to trick the walleye. But the fight of, say a tulibee or an eel pout or a sturgeon might be better than a walleye.
Well, Danny would tell you, got to start fishing in body water as bigger walleyes.
It wouldn't matter for him. Let's be real. Come on.
I thought I'd just
this.
throw a little gas in the fire between you boys. But
Love it.
Yeah,
I will say
a
this:
big
we
walleye.
talked about the multi-species. The other thing is pike, and pike get targeted most of the time on Lake of the Woods in March. With tip-ups because pike aren't a schooling fish, but they get congregated in the same areas prior to the spawn, pre-spawn, and they're real hungry. So, but it's funny because when you're fishing on Lake of the Woods, so many walleye anglers catch big pike. I hear about every single day. And we're talking big pike. We're talking 20-plus pounders. It's just amazing how many big pike there are in the system. I had a resort owner say to me recently, "What are we going to do about the problem with all these big pike in the lake?" And I'm like, "What?" Everybody has a different perspective on them.
They're eating all the walleyes.
What?
Yeah. But and then of course, the other thing is jumbo perch, and there's a lot of big perch. You don't catch a lot of perch on Lake of the Woods typically, but when you do, they're normally just sleds. Brett, I got a good one for you. I got a good story for you. So I talked to 2 different parties this year that were ice fishing on Lake of the Woods. And in both cases, eel pout were coming under the ice and hitting their transducer.
Really?
I've heard of that.
And, yeah, that puts out vibration. Mm-hmm. And I think those fish are probably more sensed to the vibration and the scent and things like that, even more so than their sight. And, think about it. They're right away, and actually a lot of those fish, big fish, predators, sometimes they'll cruise right under the ice. It's not uncommon to be looking down at your hole, looking at your bobber, and all of a sudden you see a monster pike go right under the hole. Well, the reason they're cruising under the ice, they're scavengers. If they can get a meal for free and not have to chase it down, they're going to do it. And a lot of the fish, the smaller saugers or walleyes, some of them don't make it, and some of them end up under the ice. So they come by and just get a free meal. Well, eel pout were coming down to the point where they were hitting that transducer, and the guy just said, "Hey, let me lift my transducer. I'm going to drop my spoon down." As soon as you dropped it down, bang, you got that fish.
All right, new challenge, Dan and David. Next time, our next trip to Lake of the Woods, which is coming in a couple of weeks, we're going noodling for eel pout under the ice.
I don't know if you can noodle in Minnesota legally.
In our regulations,
Probably not.
No, can't do that.
Dang it! But
We'd end up doing it, and it'd be a big pike would come up and grab a hold of our thumb or something.
hey, death equals ratings. I'm filming.
Right. Well, we're excited. We're coming up there as part of a glow trip coming up here in a couple of weeks, Joe. I'd assume we're going to see you up there for that as well.
Yeah, hoping to be up there. It conflicts with a Chicago sports show I have a little bit, but we'll got to see what we can do. And but I'm excited. I mean, we've been up in a fish house together before, and I'll tell you, when we get up there, there's good fishing to be had. Obviously, we create good content, good media. We're always with people from the industry. We're good folks. A lot of the folks have never been to Lake of the Woods before, which is always kind of neat. And you know what? Work hard, play hard. We always have a good time, don't we?
Absolutely. And for those of you wondering what a glow is, if you're an outdoor communicator, writer, podcaster, whatever, consider the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers, and you get to go places like Lake of the Woods with guys like us. So, but you should come anyway and be a part of it. So consider joining a glow, and you can learn more about it. AglowOutdoors.com. Is that the website, Joe? I should know this.
You should know this.
Yeah, I should know.
Go to the outdoor feed.
There you go.
Plug that.
TheOutdoorFeed.com, yeah. AglowOutdoors.com or aglowinfo.org or theoutdoorfeed.com. And that is something that you can just follow to get the latest outdoor content created by members of Aglow. And we'll be up at Lake of the Woods in a couple of weeks.
Brent, I should mention too, with the Glow, I mean, Aglow brings together destinations. It brings together companies that are and outdoor focused, and it also brings together media that are outdoor focused. And by bringing those 3 different groups of people together, they have programs for people that are in high school and college. If you're someday you want to get into that thing, there's scholarships available. But you get together, it's networking, it's education, and it's a professional deal. I have the ability, by being part of Aglow, not only as a destination but also as an outdoor media person myself, I have the privilege of rubbing elbows with some very, very talented communicators, and we call it the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers. That's what its name was from way back, and we keep it. But this is way more than writing. It's the most cutting edge forms of communication and media that there are out there, and we got some people that are part of our organization that are very skillful at it.
Yeah, I call it content creators. Basically, it's whether they're writers or TV hosts or podcasters, radio guys. We're all creating outdoors content. So it's outdoors content creators, and we get together. We get to share some experiences and learn from each other, and then tell people about the outdoors. It's a pretty neat organization. It's been a lot of fun, and we have no fun on these trips either, Joe. None at all.
Well, and I will say too, I mean, it's neat the diversity that's part of the Glow. We got all different sorts of people, different age groups, men and women. I mean, you name it, we got them, and we encourage people to join. It's a very good group, very welcoming group. It's not expensive to be part of the association. You know, a lot of our very gracious sponsors will put money towards the program. They believe in it so much, and that offsets the cost of us being part of it. So it's just a neat deal. And if you are interested in that sort of thing, I would say look into it. But yeah, Brett, we have no fun at these meetings. It's all work, no play, and you know what? It's why I have such a headache when I go home after that.
That's right. And Dan, pull up the outdoor feed, because if you're not an outdoor content creator, but just somebody that likes to learn more about the outdoors, we've got all of these members that have been doing this. You know, the organization is 70 years old or whatever it is, and there's hundreds of members that make up a Glow, and they're constantly sharing information about the outdoors, neat stories, tips, destination travel tips, travel ideas, how to catch fish, how to use this how to do this technique. Hey, there's a picture of David.
Hey, there it is.
Look at that guy. David's story, our podcast, other podcasts, all sorts of outdoor information, all in one place at the Outdoor Feed, outdoorfeed.org, or you can follow the Outdoor Feed on Twitter. You can follow it on Facebook as well. If you're on LinkedIn, you can follow it there too. So it's all in one place for you. So, all right, Joe, if people want to plan a trip to Lake of the Woods, what should they do for more info?
It's prime time, baby. Come on up. You know what? lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Hear more at sportingjournalradio.com or wherever you get podcasts.
Come ice fish the famous waters of Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world. Experience full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper house options. From the Northwest Angle to the South Shore, Rainy River, and Baudette, the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleye, sauger, perch, and northern pike. Minnesota's Lake of the Woods, best fishing anywhere. For more information, log on to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.